Okay, let's have a look. We're going to have graph this function. Now, the first thing we have to do is take a look at this. This should be written like this. 3 sine. Okay, if I factor the 2 out, I'm going to have x plus pi over 4. Think about that if you do about the distributive law. 2x plus 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. Now, this is how we look at it when we're going to graph. Look at section 5.4 if you need to. This is the amplitude. Straight away, I've got an answer. Now, this will give us the period. In other words, to find the period, if you remember, it's 2 pi over b. That is b. So 2 pi over 2 is pi. So that's the period. Okay? Let's erase some of this. Now remember, transformations, the phase shift, this is going to be pi over 4 to the left, okay? In other words, minus pi over 4. If you remember this from transformations, remember something like this, x plus 2 squared is a quadratic, means go 2 to the left, okay? Something like that. So I've got all the information there. I've got the period, which is pi, amplitude, which is 3, that's the number right at the start, and the phase shift, which is minus pi over 4. In other words, we're moving that way. So, regular sine graph, if you remember, kind of looks like that, between 0 and 2 pi, okay? So this is going to look like if I move it pi, negative pi over 4. Something like that, okay? There we go. I've just shifted it. Oh, well, I mean, obviously, if I keep on going, that'll be something like over here, something like that. But it just wants it over. I mean, something like that. That's okay. Something like that. You just kind of graphed it. It's just say over one period. So think about what that is over one period. I guess it's between there and there. Okay. Right. Okay. Find the solutions to these equations. So if I divide both sides by 4, I will have 1/4. Okay. If I then square root, because it's squared, I will have sine x equals plus or minus 1/2. Right. Sine 1/2. Remember? Pi over 6, or 30 degrees. Therefore, if that's 150 degrees, that's 5 pi over 6. This is 210 degrees, or 7 pi over 6. This is 330, or 11 pi over 6. Remember, plus and minus. So those, sorry, that's 11 pi. It looks like a pi. 11 pi over 6. Okay, so those are my 4 solutions. Okay, right, let's take a look at this last one here. Now, this is a bit like a quadratic that you're going to have to factor. We tend to write it like this. We replace the cosine with u, the u substitution. So u2, u squared, minus u, minus 1 equals 0. This will factor into 2u and u, a 1 and a 1, negative, positive. That'll give me that. So in other words, u equals negative 1/2 and u equals 1. Or rather, cosine theta equals negative 1/2. Cosine theta equals 1. So where are cosines negative? Okay. First of all, a half. If I was to do a half, cosine of a half is 60 degrees or pi over 3. Okay. So where it's negative, that is going to be 120 degrees. Where else is it negative? It's negative here at 240 degrees. Okay. But of course, you please write these in radians. Okay. Also, that's that done. Okay. Now, how about cosine where theta equals 1? Well, that is just 0 degrees. 0 degrees, okay? The cosine of 0 equals 1. So that is also an answer as well, okay?